This is the finished product of what we're making today. You can see I put some stuff inside of it already. This is the actual pouch that I sewed on screen with you, so I'm filming this after the fact. So this is my version of a dupe of the Delphonics utility pouch in size medium, and you'll see the small size a little bit later. I do ask that because this is the Delphonics design, that is their original design, that you not try to either resell my pattern or try to sell the ones that you sew yourself, because that would be copyright infringement on the Delphonics design. So, so don't try to resell anything. However, I do ask that if you make your own, I would really like you to tag me. So tag me on Instagram at The Grain Creative, or use the hashtag Delphonics Dupe, and I would love to see what you make. There's a lot of great ways you can customize this. One person even said on Facebook that they were gonna turn theirs into a clutch, which I thought was a really great idea. You'll see later too how I've kind of changed some of the pocket colors and changed some of the color schemes. So I hope you enjoy this, and again, tag me and let you know what you made. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial on how to make your very own Delphonics utility pouch. I posted in a traveler's notebook group if anybody would be interested in a tutorial or on getting the pattern, and like 100 of you overnight said yes. So I'm not a professional YouTuber. I have no idea what I'm doing, but here's what we're looking at today. There are 3 basic pieces we're going to be putting together. The front face, this is the small, but I'll be showing you the medium in the tutorial. The front face has these pleated pockets that poke out a little bit. The back face has the flat pockets, and then the sides include the zipper and this bottom. So I'm going to show you first real high-tech stuff here. My little list of sewing concepts that you're going to need to start with. So the first thing you're going to need to know is obviously how to sew forward and backward on your machine. We're going to use back tacking to help secure our stitches. So you'll have to sew backwards for that. The second thing you need to know is how to lengthen and shorten your stitch length. You really only need 2 stitch lengths. You'll need a regular stitch length, and you'll need a long basting stitch length. And then the last thing you'll need is how to move your needle left to right. That's not mandatory, but it is helpful as we line up our seams. The materials that you'll need, again, very high tech here with my lists. The materials that you'll need are your exterior fabric. It took me a yard to make both patterns. So for the medium and the small, it was a yard. You'll need about 3/4 of a yard of the interior fabric if you want to make both. A zipper that is a lot longer than your base layer length, and I'll show you that in a minute. Needle and thread. If you're using a sewing machine, there's going to be several layers you're sewing together, so I would recommend you use at least a size 80 or 90. You'll need fabric scissors, something to mark with. We are going to be marking on the exterior of the fabric that's going to be seen, so you'll want something that either blends in or can be erased, or like an air erasing marker or something like that. And then lots of pens. And then the patterns. So a note on the patterns, the small one you can use as is, but the medium size, this whole thing didn't fit on one sheet of printer paper. So I ended up cutting it vertically and then adding an inch here, and then cutting it horizontally and adding an inch here, so that I could amount for my seam allowances. You need to do this on every sheet of the medium pattern. So every sheet of the medium pattern, you'll see that I've added this. However, on the small pattern, I didn't need to do that. So a seam ripper, because we know we're going to make mistakes. Interfacing is optional. I chose a particularly fiddly fabric for my interior, so I went ahead and interfaced the inside. And then binding and ribbon, that's going to help the insides look pretty. Something that's kind of interesting, I just wanted to show you the iterations of my attempts to make this thing. First, I made a modified medium. I think this is an 8x10 and it's loaded up with stuff right now, but I figured out how to do the front and the back, but I could not for the life of me figure out how to make the zipper go around. So then I thought about it for a minute and I looked at a bunch of videos and a bunch of pictures, and then I realized, oh yeah, the inside is bound. So I was trying to hide the inside, like hide my stitches on the inside, and then I realized I didn't have to, which made my life a lot easier. So my second iteration was where I have the interior bound like this, and this is a small. I improved on the bucket pockets or the pleated pockets, and I had pleated pockets on both sides, and I recently realized that there's flat pockets on one side. Again, I don't own one of these things. This is just basically what I've gathered from the internet. And then I figured out how to bind this interior section. So finally, and again, this is, you know, I'm sure I'm going to make improvements on it again. Finally, I ended up with this guy, which I am absolutely in love with. Again, I learned each time I made it, so I learned the last time I made it too. But this is the same fabric we're going to be working with today. This light blue denim outside, this shiny teal satin interior, and then I bound this with grosgrain ribbon. You can use binding, or you can just leave it. You can just leave it frayed or ravelly if you want to. You can use pinking shears or like fray check, like that super glue kind of stuff, to keep it from fraying. I get really finicky and like really upset whenever there's unfinished edges. So I am going to bind mine. So this is kind of what we're looking at. We're going to be making, again, the medium version of this today. All right, let's take a look at our pattern pieces that we need. This first pattern piece is our base layer, and this is going to be the width and the height of the of your pouch. Again, remember, if you're doing the medium, you need to add this inch here and here. We're going to be cutting 2 of your exterior fabric here, and then also 2 of your interior fabric. Pay attention to what is the pretty side and the ugly side of your fabric, because it's going to come in handy later. Pattern piece number 2 is going to be the back pocket. So that's going to be this, on the front and back faces, it's going to be this back pocket here. This is also going to be the pocket that goes along the inside, and these are flat pockets. And you need 2 of your exterior and 2 of your interior fabric there. Pattern piece number 3 is your front exterior flat pocket. So that's going to be on this back side where both of the pockets are flat. You're going to need that piece. And you only need 1 of your exterior fabric. I think I cut an extra. Yeah, I did. Okay. Then pattern piece number 4, sorry, I'm reaching, is going to be your front exterior pleated pocket. So this is the bucket pocket that goes on the front. And you'll notice that this piece is quite a bit longer than the flat pocket. Sorry, the dogs were barking. So you'll notice that the pleated pocket is quite a bit longer than the flat pocket. And the reason why is because we're going to fold it to make that kind of 3D shape. So however many pockets you're using, that's how much longer this pleated pocket needs to be. So the medium size has 5 front pockets, so it's going to be 5 inches longer. If you only want 3 pockets on your front pleated pockets, then you need to make it only 3 inches longer, and you can kind of adjust this as you want. If you want 6 pockets, then you need to make this 6 inches longer. So that's it for our front sides. Pattern piece number 5 is this side bottom piece, which kind of like wraps around like this and then attaches to the zipper. And this is actually quite a bit longer than you need, but we're going to cut it down later. And you need 1 of exterior and 1 of your interior. And then finally, you need the borders for your zipper. This is what we're going to be dealing with first. You need 2 of your exterior and 2 of your interior fabric. And again, I interfaced all of my interior fabric, but I think it helps you see what's the pretty side and what's not, so it's going to work. The next thing you're gonna need to have kind of handy is an iron. If you don't have an iron, that's fine, you can finger press, but having an iron, like a nice hot steamy iron, is gonna help you have a really professional finish. All right, let's get into it. First thing we're going to start with is the zipper. This is probably the part that some of you are nervous about, but I promise you there is nothing to be nervous about. This is easy peasy. So we're going to start with our zipper with the teeth facing up. You don't need anything special. You just need some pins in your machine. Teeth facing up, and remember, we're paying attention to what is the pretty side and what is the not pretty side of our fabric. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna create like a little sandwich, a little zipper sandwich. We're gonna make sure our teeth are facing up. We're gonna take the exterior fabric, and you only need one piece right now, and we're gonna put this face down. So pretty side down, okay? And then we're gonna take the interior fabric and we're gonna put it pretty side up. So the pretty side of your fabric, or your right side of your fabric, is going to be facing the zipper tape. So this side's pretty side's facing down. On your interior fabric, pretty side's facing up. So they're both facing the tape. And all we're going to do is we're going to line up the raw edges. So line up these edges here, and then line up these edges here, and then we're going to pin them down, and then take it to our machine. So bear with me, it's kind of difficult to do this on camera, but I'm right-handed, so I'm going to go this direction. I'm just going to start pinning this together. If you don't know how it's going to turn out, I like to do this thing called pin and pretend, where you just pretend like it's a seam, flip it, and see if it's going to look right. We're all pinned. You can kind of, I know that we're hiding the zipper teeth right now, and that's a little scary, but you can kind of feel it and see it through here. So I'm actually just going to take my fingernail and just rub it along this inside, so I can kind of see where my zipper tape is, where my teeth are, so that I don't catch those when I'm sewing. This is very technical stuff here. All right, stitch time. I don't have anything special set up with my machine. I don't have any zipper feet or anything. I'm just going with a standard foot. Oh my gosh, the dogs. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this edge of my foot and I'm gonna line it up on the teeth. So I'm gonna stick my foot down, and you can see how this, maybe I can move you. The edge of my teeth is lined up right along the edge of my zipper foot, and that's what I'm going to keep in line. So I can kind of feel that as I'm sewing down. Remember to remove your pins as you sew, and don't sew over your pins. That's no bueno. Yeah, so we're going to start with a couple of forward stitches, 1, 2, and then I'm going to go backward, 1, 2, and that's a back tack. And now I'm going to go forward and sew all the way down. I know it's scary that you can't see where the tape is, or you can't see where the teeth are, but I'm also paying attention to where my fabric is feeding into the actual machine. So I can see, there's this little clear section here, I can see the how far away the edge is in relation to my needle. So I'm keeping an eye on that also. And you don't have to go fast, just go slow, slow and steady. And again, I'm feeling kind of where the edge of these teeth are. Okay, let's do some adjusting here. Almost there. Oh my gosh, I can't with the dog. I can't with the dog. It's driving me nuts. Okay, Almost at the end, and I'm going to back tack. 1, 2, forward, 1, 2, done. All right, so when we take this out of the machine, I'm going to go ahead, oh, how did that happen? Well, that's all right. I'm gonna go ahead and snip my thread tails. I've got a bowl somewhere. Where's my bowl? There it is. I'm gonna go ahead and snip my thread tails and then put them in this little trash bowl that I keep handy. Let me zoom you out. There we are. So snip this guy. Snip this guy. All right, so you can see now that when we open this up, dun, da, da, we have our pretty sides facing out on both this side and this side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finger press this first, just to kind of get it started. But I'm going to take this, I'm going to flip it out, and then press it away from the zipper teeth. So I'm going to finger press first, and then I'm going to take it to the iron. Nice and flat. And I'm going to take it to the iron and press it for real. When you're using your iron, you have to be really careful that you don't melt your plastic teeth. So be careful of that. Make sure you keep your tip right on the seam or right on the fold, and don't keep your iron on those teeth for too long because they'll melt. And I'm speaking from my own experience here. Okay, let's go iron. All right, I'm gonna start with one side flipped away, and then I'll do the other. So I'm gonna stay away from these teeth so that I don't melt them. Use some steam if you need to. And I can't see the camera, so I don't know if I'm in shot right now. Maybe I am. If not, I'm so sorry. And again, I'm just finger pressing this and kind of pushing it away just to kind of encourage it to lay the direction I want it to. And now we iron. There we go. All right, so while this is nice and flat, I'm gonna pop a couple pins in because we're about to sew these guys together. So I'm gonna put a pin in right here, just a few, just a couple. Pin in right here. And what's gonna happen is that these two are now going to start acting as one piece of fabric. That's the goal. And one more. All right. No, that pin didn't work. Let's try another one. Right. So I'm going to top stitch, which means I'm going to stitch on the top. See what I did there? Right here, right along this edge here, and that's just going to keep, I need to repin this. That's just going to keep our fabric away from the zipper teeth so that they won't snag. All right, so we're going to do some top stitching. I'm going to use my teeth as a guide again, but I want this to be moved over just a little bit. So I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to scooch it over just a little bit, maybe a little bit more. Yeah, that'll be good. And that'll give us a really clean straight line for us to sew on. And I'm not pushing the fabric, I'm just letting the feed dogs do their job and pull the fabric through. I'm just guiding it with my fingers, just lightly touching right now. Barely touching the fabric. Okay, good. All right. Sweet. All right, let's clean this up a little bit. I'm gonna get rid of my pins. You can see at the end there I was a little wobbly. That's okay. Other than that, it gives you a really nice, clean, straight line. And look how professional that looks. That looks so good. All right. Taking the pins out, I'm going to clean up my thread tails. Put this in my trash bowl. All right, so if you want to, and I'm gonna sew just a really long basting stitch along this edge so that these two are really, really well combined. A basting stitch is the longest stitch length on your machine. So I'll show you here. If your machine looks like mine, there's probably a little, what is that called? A screen up here where you can increase and change the stitch length. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to change my stitch length and make it really long, and I'm just going to tack this down. So now you have one side of your zipper. I'm going to go through and do the exact same thing to the other side. All right, your zipper is halfway done. That wasn't so scary, was it? We're going to take our other pieces. We're going to do the exact same thing. So remember, our teeth are facing up. We're going to put the pretty side down of your exterior fabric, and I want you to notice that I'm lining this up with the piece that we just sewed so that we're making one rectangle. And then we're going to take pretty side up of your interior fabric and sandwich these together. I'm going to go through and do the exact same thing I just did. So I'm going to sew on my machine, keeping my foot lined up with this edge where the teeth are. And then I'm going to iron them away, iron the seams away. And so you'll see that we have a nice little zipper border here, and that wasn't so hard. All right, my zipper is done. I've got both sides zipped down, ironed, top stitched, and then I have the edges here stitched together so that these two pieces act as one. I figured this would be as good of a time as any to talk about seam allowances. So our final stitching that you'll actually be able to like experience on the outside is going to go along where this purple line is. So we have a 1/2 inch between this raw edge and where our stitches go that we're not going to be able to see. So we can use this 1/2 inch to make basting stitches, which are these long stitches, to make marks or notches or any kind of helpful information. You have some room to play that won't be visible on the outside. So we're going to be basting a couple of times today. Let me zoom here. Couple of times that's going to be within this seam allowance. So if I say inside the seam allowance, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about between this raw edge and where this 1/2 inch line is. All right, we're going to do the bottom side loopy thing now. So you'll need pattern piece 5 and your zipper. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure that we know where our zipper tab is. Don't cut off your zipper tab. I've done that before and it stinks. So my zipper tab is way over here, so I'm going to work on this side. I would advise you work on this side that is farthest away from your actual zipper pull first. So I'm going to start here. First of all, I'm going to snip off this end of the zipper. Okay, that's why it's important to make sure that this guy is over here. So I snip this off. I'm going to take pattern piece number 5. Oh, did I not interface it? Oh, oops, that's okay. Pattern piece number 5, and I'm going to take the exterior fabric and I'm going to put it right side down, lining up these edges. And you're probably like, oh, those don't match up. One's wider than the other. That's okay. And then we're going to take the interior fabric, shiny side up, just like we did with the zipper, and we're going to put it underneath. So we're making a sandwich. Again, oh, so many sandwiches. Okay, so then we're going to take these guys right here, line them up, and pin. Come on, there we go. I'm trying to stay on camera while I do this. Make sure you don't pin inside your zipper teeth. That would be difficult. Okay, All right, so I've got my pins in. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna sew a 1/2 inch across here. So sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance from here to here and back tack on both sides. All right, on my machine, I had to move my needle over to the right in order to use this long line here as my seam allowance guide. Whatever works for you, there's lots of little markings on your machine that you can use, or you can kind of see here, I did this for a different project. I used washi tape as my seam allowance guide, so you can do that too, and that works just fine. So we're sewing our 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to back tack over here. 1, 2, backwards, 1, 2, okay. Okay, and now I'm going to back tack. 1, 2, and forward, 1, 2. All right. Okay, so you can see, if I zoom you out, that's going to leave me with this little tab here, and you get a nice clean finish. So what we're going to do, and I know this is probably going to be shocking to you, is that we are going to iron this, and I'm going to top stitch this here. I'm only doing this one side, don't do the other side. All right, so this is pattern piece 5. This is your zipper. I just ironed it back and I top stitched it so it looks just like the zipper does. You'll notice when you iron it back, these two, the interior and the exterior, kind of want to hang out together. So we're going to encourage that, and we're going to go ahead and pin both of these parts together, and then we're going to stitch inside the seam allowance just like we did up here, and we're going to stitch along this whole length. And also, this is the first time I've sewn the medium size of this pattern, so I'm sure I'll make adjustments to the pattern after I finish this. Do that on the other side. All right. I may have been kind of close on that 1/2 inch there at the end. That's okay. All right, we are all stitched up together. Now the inside, or sorry, the sides and the bottom of your bag are gonna be this wide. Do I need to focus? There we go. They're gonna be this wide. So you'll notice that the zipper tab, the tape is wider than this. So I'm just gonna trim this down. If you have a rotary cutter, this would be a really great time to use that. But I'm just gonna take the width of this side and bottom, and I'm gonna cut my zipper tab to be the same width. All right, so now they're the same width. I'm going to go through and do some basting stitches just like I did here, so that again these are acting as one. All right, so now we've got one long strip, and this is going to be turned into a loop later that's going to go around the sides. So this is what's going to connect the front face to the back face, but we're not going to do that just yet, obviously, because we don't have the faces yet. So we're done with this piece for now. So you can set this aside and go ahead and get out all of your pocket pieces. So that's piece 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to do the same thing with all of these, with 2, 3, and 4, and we're just going to do them all at the same time. So all of these little guys, we're going to go ahead and identify the pretty side, and we're going to fold away from the pretty side a 1/2 inch. And this is really easy to finger press here. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just gonna do a little bit of cleaning up on the edges. So we're gonna iron this, obviously, because you know I love to iron. We're gonna iron this down, and then once we're done ironing those down, I'm gonna meet you at the sewing machine. I just got off the iron. I folded over the tops of all of these, and there's a note on your pattern that says where to double fold and stitch on this edge. It's a long edge that doesn't have the, well, I guess they're the same length, that doesn't have the rounded corners. So it's the 90-degree angle corners. So I just folded these over a 1/2 inch. You should have 6 pockets that have that done. We're gonna do the same thing to all 6 of these. This is actually my least favorite part of this whole process. I don't know why. But this crease that we just created, we're gonna take the end and fold it under to that crease, kind of like a little roll. And then we're gonna crease where we just ironed. So that we create this little double hem. And as we sew throughout the machine, well, you can do it now if you want, I guess. Just go through and pin. Sorry, I'm not explaining this very well. Pin and stitch this down. I moved my needle over, so I'm gonna stitch this with my, the edge of my fabric lined up with the edge of my foot here. Back tack at the beginning and the end. Okay, so when we double check, we'll see that we've got a nice flat seam here, a nice flat hem, and we've got some pretty straight stitches too, so not bad. All right, so once you finish sewing all of these, obviously we're gonna iron them again to have a nice crisp edge. I've got all 6 of my little pocket pieces double folded, stitched, and then ironed, and you can see how nice and crisp that top line is. Notice that we have folded it away from the pretty side. So we folded it under so that we don't have to see those raw edges there. I am noticing right now, look at the back exterior pocket and the front exterior pocket. Do you see how close together these are? I think just for aesthetic purposes, I'm gonna scooch mine down just a little bit and then use the other pocket as a guide. I'm just gonna trim off this bit here. I'm gonna do that with the long one as well. All right, so hemming the pockets is like my least favorite part, but it's rewarding because now is the fun part. So we need our pocket pieces. That's front, okay. We need our pocket pieces, and we also need our base layers. Okay, base layers are here. I'm going to start with the interior pockets because they're the easiest ones. We've got flat pockets on one side and then a long pocket on the other. So here are my, can I zoom you out? Okay, here are my interior base layers. So all I'm going to do for this first one is I'm just going to lay this puppy down and line up my curves. Okay, this is going to be the long pocket. If you want to put in Velcro, which is, I think that's how the original is, there's Velcro right here. This is when you would need to do that. So you would put the one side on this guy and then match it up where you'd put here. I don't have any Velcro and I really didn't want to buy anything. That's the whole purpose of making it myself. So I'm just going to leave it as a long pocket. And also I know myself and I don't usually tend to use those. So I've got my front little pocket lined up. Both of the pretty sides are facing up. And I'm going to pin around. Just to stick these two guys together. And then I'm going to do what's called mounting, which is where you baste within the seam line, within the seam allowance, just like we did before with the zipper. You baste inside the seam allowance, and we're going to do that all the way around the pocket so that these two pieces act as one. Try not, this fabric is really slippery. in hindsight, I probably should have used something less difficult, but it's pretty and I had it on hand. So that's what we're going to use. All right, so we're going to batch make this. So we're going to leave this here for now. This guy is done for now. Go to your inside pocket or your other pocket. Okay, this one is going to be divided, and I think it's divided like in half-ish. So I'm laying this on top of this one, just like I did before. Lay your pocket on top of your base. Okay, and I'm going to pin vertically, so up and down here. And, oop, that didn't line up. Hang on, let's fix that. There we go. Again, very slippery fabric. Not the best choice. And then I'm going to pin here. So I've got 2 vertical pins. And I'm going to draw using my marker. This is an air erasing marker, which means it just disappears over time. I'm going to draw a straight line where I want that pocket to be. If you want like a skinny pocket and a big pocket, you can do that. If you want it to be half and half, which is what I'm going to do, you can do that. If you want it to be, if you want like 3 pockets, you could do that. It's up to you. The choices are endless. I'm going to do 2 pockets about halfway. So I'm going to put a line like here-ish, and I'm drawing it on the pretty side of the fabric. So make sure this is something that you can either erase or it goes away, or you can hide it somehow. You can also use chalk to make this line. So I'm going to go to my machine and I'm going to sew down this line. Make sure you back tack really good at the top of this because you're going to be able to see that, and that's a knot that's going to hold this line in place. See, I'm on this line here that I drew. I'm going to go forward a couple stitches, 1, 2, back, 1, 2, and then forward again. And that back tack is just the knot that's going to keep your stitches in place, so that way you don't have to go back and manually knot them. And so I'm keeping this line, I don't know if you can see this, kind of in between this little tooth here. This little tooth on my foot. Tooth on my foot. Wow. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to back tack just to make sure it's secure, but that's going to be hidden and chopped off later anyways. Okay, so what we need to do now to this side and to this side is that we need to do a basting stitch within the seam allowance to mount these 2 pieces together and to make sure that they work as one instead of as 2 individual pieces. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go through and baste around both of these to make sure the pockets stay along with the base. All right, I'm basting around and I'm just making sure these 2 pieces stay flat. When you get to this corner here, just take it slow and maybe put a hand underneath both pieces so that you are making sure that they are hanging together. I'm just going right around that corner there. There, nice and smooth. All right, we've got our pockets for the interior mounted. So you notice, like when I pick up this thing, this whole thing, it acts as one piece, and that's our goal. So both of these have been basted and mounted, and next you need your exterior. You're gonna need the base layer in just a minute, but not quite yet. But you're gonna need both of the flat pockets. So these are the back is the same, but this is the shorter of the front pocket. So we're gonna do, we're gonna make some pockets here, the flat pockets, the exact same way that we did here. And so I'm gonna take a look at a picture real quick to see how many pockets we're gonna make. And then we're gonna make our, take our vertical pins and pin like this. And then again, draw the lines and then stitch them down. Easy peasy. All right, I checked out a YouTube video. Apparently there's one flat pocket here, and then the back pocket has Velcro, but we already know I don't have Velcro, so I'm not gonna go buy any. I just stitched this pocket closed, so you can see I've got a small pocket on this side, big pocket on this side, and then I've got this full long pocket back here. I'm gonna go ahead and layer all three pieces. So I'm layering my base layer, which is back here. Oh, that's upside down. Oh, fuzzies all over the place. My base layer, my back pocket, and my front pocket. And I'm gonna pin all three of these together and baste inside the seam allowance. Okay, so I'm basting along all three of these edges to keep the pockets attached to the base layer. We've got all three of our layers basted together. So I've got a long pocket back here, which you could attach Velcro if you wanted to. That's what the original Delphonics does. I've got a larger front pocket and then a smaller front pocket. So this guy is done. We're gonna set him aside. So now 3 of our face layers are done. This last one I'm gonna spend some time on. So you need to go ahead and take your last base layer and go ahead and lay that down. Okay, then you're gonna take your exterior front pocket and lay that down, matching up these corners down here. And just lay it on top of one another for now, okay? Then we're gonna take our front pleated pocket and lay that down, matching up this far left-hand corner. So once these guys are laid down, make sure these are parallel up here. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead, maybe I shouldn't lay this down. I'm having doubts. No, I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm gonna go and pop a pin in, and what I'm gonna do is go ahead and sew a basting stitch right where the seam line is going to go. So the seam line is going to go at a 1/2 inch. And so if I were to draw it for you right now, it's going to go right here. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and stitch all 3 of these layers together using this line as my guide and using that 1/2 inch seam allowance because we need these 3 to be hung together to start with. This is different. This pocket's weird. We're just gonna roll with it. Okay, so go ahead and do a basting stitch right here just as a guide. All right, so we've got our 3 layers sewed together. This is my base layer, the exterior pocket, and the front pleated pocket. I'm gonna insert a picture from Choosing Bliss on Instagram, who gave me permission to use her photo. These pockets are a little different because you can't just like sew them together and then tack them down. The front pleated pocket is going to have 5 pockets, and the back pocket actually has 2. So there's going to be a line about here that's sewn on the back pocket, but it's not the same place as where it's going to be sewn on the front. So bear with me. Here's what we're going to do first. Take your front pleated pocket and tuck it back. So open it like a book and tuck it back. And we're gonna use either a ruler or I've got a grid on my cutting mat here. And we're gonna mark where we want our 5 pockets to go. I don't know the exact measurements because I don't actually own one of these things. But the first thing we're gonna note is that our seam allowance is gonna be a 1/2 inch from this edge. So we're gonna make a mark a 1/2 inch here. And that's about where that corner, that rounded corner ends. Can I zoom you in? I'm gonna zoom you in. Okay, so I made a mark there. And it doesn't matter what you mark this with because this is gonna be inside the seam allowance. You could mark it with a permanent marker if you wanted to and it won't show. Okay, so I've got 5 pockets. So I'm gonna make 3 of them are 1 inch. Why not? 1, 2, 3. Okay, those are the little pockets. And then how much room do I have left? I have 7.5 inches left. 1, 2, 3. I need 2 more pockets. Okay, so I'm going to make this first one 3.5 inches so I can put my Post-it notes in it. And that's going to leave me with 4 inches. That'll work, won't it? Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so I've got a 3.5 inch pocket, a 4 inch pocket, and then you can't see that. There's 3.5, there's 4, and then I've got 1, 2, 3 1 inch pockets. Sound good? Okay. All right, so this, I'm gonna make a mark. This is 3.5, this is 4, that's 1, 1, and 1. Okay, and you won't be able to see that again when I sew it down. Okay, now notice that this front pleated pocket is a lot longer. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do our first pleat first, and then we're gonna do the exterior pocket, and then we're gonna do the other pleats. So take your exterior and your front pockets and hold them together, pinch them together. Take the base layer and flip it back like a book. I'll show you that again. Okay, holding my front and my back exterior pocket, holding them together. Take the base layer and flip it back so it opens like a book. Okay. We've got a little dot here at 3.5 inches. Instead of making a dot on the front pleat at 3.5 inches, I'm gonna go an inch past that. Okay, so here's my dot. I'm gonna go an inch past that and make a dot on the outside. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and draw a line there because that's where we're actually gonna be sewing. So this mark and this line is at 4.5 inches. So on the underside is at 3.5, but on the top side it's at 4.5. And this is what's gonna give it that 3D shape, okay? About to blow your mind here. Actually, it's not really that difficult, but. All right, take this line, take that dot, and we're gonna scooch it back so that it lines up with the dot on the other side. Okay, so this is your first pocket dot. Line it up with that one. And then we are going to pin. And when I pin this, I'm gonna make sure these bottom raw edges are lined up and that this top pocket is parallel to this one. So I'm gonna put lots of pins because I get kind of anxious when it comes to making pleated pockets because they tend to move around on me. Maybe one more. Okay. All right, so we're gonna sew this and we're gonna back tack up here and down here. Notice that I'm only sewing the front pocket to the back pocket. I'm not sewing it to the base layer. The base layer is way over here and has nothing to do with this. Notice if you did this correctly, these two should not lie flat. There should be this little bumpy thing, which we're gonna end up flattening later. This is what makes it poke out though. So they should not be flat together. They should not be flush like the other flat pockets. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom you back out and we're going to do this next thing. Okay, take our pins out. All right, so I'm inserting a picture from Choosing Bliss on Instagram. And you'll be able to see how there is a seam line. Oh, wow, there you go. There's a seam line on the exterior pocket that is not on the back pocket, that's not on the front pocket, okay? So we're gonna take the front pocket and flip it away. Open it like a book. So here's that front pocket. We're flipping it open like a book. And that's leaving us with just the back pocket and the base layer, okay? So about halfway, I'm gonna make a line on the back pocket, maybe like here-ish, I guess. I'm gonna make a line. Okay, and I'm gonna pin the base layer and that back pocket together. I think this is fun. It's like a little puzzle piece you get to put together. Okay, and then I'm going to sew on that purple line. All right, so your back piece, your base layer, and your back pocket are going to be flushed together, so it's not going to be lifted up like the other one was. Okay, we're going to take these pins out, and then take your base layer and fold it back. So we're going to be working with just those front two pieces now. We don't need the base layer anymore. Tuck it back. I would even pin it back, so that you know it's out of your way. So I'm gonna pop a pin back there. We're working with just your pockets now. No more base layer. Okay. All right. Let's recap real quick before I do this next part. Okay. The first thing I did was we took the 3 layers, stacked them on top of one another, and sewed a seam line here at the 1/2 inch mark. So actually where those stitches are gonna go, we sewed that seam down. Okay. The next thing we did was we took our exterior pocket and we marked where our pocket lines were gonna go. Okay. The next thing we did was we sewed our first pleated pocket. We sewed down here using only the front and the back pocket layers. Okay. Then, so we had to flip the base layer back to do that. Okay. Then we flipped the front layer back in order to sew the pocket on the back pocket. How many times can I say the word pocket? All right, so that's where we are now. I'm taking the base layer, flipping it back because I don't need it anymore, and pin, just to make sure. All right, now this is the fun part. We're gonna go ahead and do our seam lines for where our other pockets are gonna go. So we've got a mark here that's gonna be a pocket, and then 1, 2, 3. All right, so we've got a line here. So I'm gonna go an inch past that. I wonder if I can bring you in even further. Oh yeah. Okay, I've got a mark here, and I'll make these darker so you can see. Okay, I'm gonna go an inch past that to make the mark on the outside pocket, on the front pocket. Okay, and where that 1 inch past mark is, that's where I'm gonna draw my line to sew. Okay, so that's where the mark was. Here's my line to sew. I'm going to take this guy, keep this guy flat, scooch him back so that this line matches up with that dot. I'm sure there are more technical terms for this, but I'm not going to use them. Okay, and now we pin. And sew that down. All right, same thing. We're going to find our dot underneath where our next pocket's going to go. Our dot is right here. Okay, I'm going to go an inch past that and make a dot on the outside. I'm going to draw the line because that's where I'm going to be sewing. Make sure when you draw this line, you're drawing it with something that's not going to be, it's not going to be permanent. Okay. Take that line, scooch it back to mark it with that dot. Okay, then we're going to pin. It's trying to twist on me. Don't you dare. And we're going to sew that down. Okay, so we've got one of our little pencil pockets done. Okay, we're going to find that dot underneath. We're going to go an inch past that and make the dot on the outside. Okay, mark a line. We're going to take this dot, scooch it back to match it up with that guy down there, and pin. I think that's our last one almost, right? And that should be, what, like a half an inch past? Yep. We are actually making what's called inverted box pleats. That's what these guys are. And each pleat adds an inch to your length. Okay. All right, so we're going to sew down this purple line right here. This last pencil pocket, we're going to bring the base layer back to play. So base layer's back. All I'm going to do is kind of do the reverse of what I did at the beginning. I'm going to make sure that all of my corners down here line up. So all I need to do is take this guy, scooch him back, and line him up. And I'm going to go ahead and pin all three of these layers together. And you might need to pin like the dickens here. And then we're going to sew where our 1/2 inch seam allowance is. Actually, I think those pins might be in the way of my seam allowance. We'll find out. Okay, so this is where the magic happens with the inverted box pleats. We made our marks at the half inch bit. We're going to take that mark and we're going to pinch it to crease it. And we really only need this crease to be at the bottom, but we're going to pinch to crease. And then we're going to line that crease, line that dot up with the sewed seam line. So I'm going to fold this down. And then I'm going to stick a pin in the bottom so that the pin is facing the raw edge, like that. Okay. So again, we're going to find where your dot is, and we're going to pinch there. And then we're going to line up that, that pinch with this seam line here. If I can get you in even further. My battery died. All right, so we're on a second pocket. We're going to take our little mark and we're going to pinch right where that mark is. Okay, and then we're going to fold it down so that it lines up with that sewed pocket line there. Okay. Once that's down, we're going to pin with the pointy side facing the raw edge. I have to do it this way because I'm right-handed. There you go. You can see our little inverted box plates are starting to take shape. Looks pretty good. See how that lays nice and flat now against the All right, I'm gonna go ahead and sew actually on that 1/2 inch mark, which for my machine is here. I'm not gonna use a basting stitch length. I'm gonna use a regular stitch length. And the reason why is because the basting stitch length sometimes will, it won't catch your fold here. So I do want to catch the fold. And I think actually I'm gonna go just inside that 1/2 inch mark. So just barely not 1/2 an inch. All right. All right, we're done. I'm gonna take this guy, I'm gonna clean him up a little bit. I don't know why it's always males. Take this girl, this thing. Why do I have to assign gender to this? I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna clean off my thread tails and clean it up a little bit. Maybe take off some of these little ravelly bits, and then we are going to put our front, our exterior and our interior together. All right, here's what we're doing next. Oh my gosh, we're so close to getting to the end. We're gonna take the right sides of our interior and exterior pockets, and we're gonna put them wrong sides together. So I think actually, I want this one. So I've got pretty side out and pretty side out. And we're just gonna line up these corners and mount them together. And by now we should know what mounting is. So I'm gonna line up the corners, and then I'm gonna pin them together, and I'm gonna sew within the seam allowance with a basting stitch, and that's just gonna make these two pieces act as one. Now, I think it was the last time I made this pocket got caught when I was sewing it, so I just pinned that down so that it wouldn't get caught. That's all that is. I'm actually going to leave those pins in there because I'm going to need them later. Okay, so we're just pinning, and then we're going to sew within that 1/2 inch seam allowance. When you get to the corners, just take it really nice and slow. If you want to, you can put like a diagonal pin here to help those corners go a little smoother. Because I will say the corners are a tad bit difficult. But just go slow, and if you need to shorten your stitch length around the corners, that is perfectly fine. I think that might help a little bit. Maybe one more. All right. So when we go to the machine, we're gonna stitch this guy, mount it to the interior. Make sure the pockets are oriented correctly. I also made that mistake. So this pocket up, this pocket up. And then I'm also gonna mount these two together. So wrong sides facing so that you have pretty side out and pretty side out. Mount them and then baste them together. All right, we are mounted. So that leaves us now with 3 pieces that we're gonna connect. And this is it. That's all we have to do is connect these 3 pieces. Unfortunately, that's probably the more difficult part, but that's okay. First we have our front face that has the flat pockets, or back, it doesn't matter. And then we have the face that has the pleated pockets. Okay, good, just checking. And I have that pocket pinned out of the way because it gave me trouble last time I made it. And then I have the side that's gonna get looped together to combine them. So I'll show you on this side how I have the front with the interior, the back with the interior, and there is this full loop that combines them. So putting this little loop thing on here is a little finagly, but it's gonna help if we have some information. So I think on the pattern I put a notch, and I even told you to mark the notches, and then I didn't mark them. But what I'm gonna do is find the halfway point on the top and the bottom, and that's gonna be super, super helpful. So I just folded it in half, and I'm gonna just make a little clip inside the seam allowance. So I just made a little notch right there. I'm gonna do that here. Make a little notch. Easy peasy. Do that on this other one. Fold it in half. Especially on the tops, you really want to make sure that you have that center, because that's where the zipper is going to go. There and there. All right. So this is the part where you have a little bit of playroom. And if it sounds like I'm making it up, it's probably because I probably am. So if you look at pictures, the place where the zipper starts is about like here between these two pockets. Like between the front pocket and the back pocket, it's like right in the middle is where that seam line goes. So I'm just gonna mark halfway, and I'm gonna make sure that it matches up on this other piece. I'm gonna start on this side because I'm right-handed. Go back to your little loop-de-loop. We're gonna make sure our little loop-de-loop is facing down. So we've got exterior on exterior fabrics, okay? Where your little mark was, that's where we're gonna put that seam line. And we're gonna line them up, and we're gonna pin it down, okay? And we're gonna pin along this straight edge here. Now you might be thinking, wow, this loop is like a lot longer than the perimeter of this face. What is up with that? You are absolutely correct, and it's because I didn't know how long that face needed to be, or how long that loop needed to be. I didn't know. Okay, so right now you should be seeing the bottom of the zipper, the interior fabric, and these two should be facing. Because when we sew it, we're gonna open it like that, ta-da! And then we're gonna pin and pretend, okay? So that round corner is gonna go there. We're gonna go boop-de-boop, put a pin in. And then this is gonna wrap around, and this is the kind of weird finagly bit where you're just gonna have to like make it work. Because going around corners is not always fun, and it certainly is not always easy. But we have a little bit of playroom. With these corners, you want this to be shorter as opposed to longer. So if you can make it shorter, that's okay. If you want to measure, I guess you could use a tape measure and measure around, but remember the seam line's gonna go here. Okay. Oh gosh. All right, we're gonna pin it. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna pin it and go for it. And then if we need to, we can rip our stitches out. That's okay. Oh gosh, I need another pin. I don't even know if I'm still in the frame. I don't even know, man. Oh, gracious sakes. Ow. Don't stab yourself, Becca. Okay, oh gosh, here comes the corner. All right, pin and pretend, folks. Pin and pretend. I'm gonna round this corner here. I'm sure that there is a better way to do rounded corners. I don't know what it is though. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Okay. I'm just kind of putting my finger where I think the seam line will go. And then working my way around. Ooh, I wonder if I clip into this, if that will help. I bet it would. The first time I made this, I made it a 90-degree angle, and clipping really seemed to help. So we're gonna do that a couple of times. Yeah. Oh yeah, that'll work. Let's do that on this side too. Just put a couple of little snips there. Yeah, that'll help it lay flat. I can already tell that it's gonna be off, so I'm gonna fix that there. That's the secret, folks. You learned it right here today. Put some clips there so your fabric doesn't get all bunchy. Ooh, that's gonna look way better than the last time I made it. Here we go. Aren't you glad that we practiced with our pins first? I sure am. Okay, now we gotta fix all these guys because now it's all bunchy. Okay. Ooh, this is gonna look good. I think this is gonna be good. All right. Here's our bunchiness. We got our clips in there, so maybe it won't be so bad. Rotate this around. I know I'm not telling you what I'm thinking right now. I'm sorry, I'm just really focused. Okay, and I'm gonna put one more pin, but I'm gonna stop here. So we are not going to sew all the way to where this mark is. Okay, we're not sewing all the way there. We're not sewing all the way to where this is gonna end. I'm just gonna round the corner and then stop. Okay, so I'm gonna sew from here, round it around, and then I'm gonna go ahead and pin the rest of this down, and I'm gonna stop there. So I'm gonna have this whole length that is not sewed. That's really important. Don't mess that up. Okay. Okay, let's sew. I'm sewing at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Remember, I'm leaving this whole section open and unsewed. So I'm gonna start down here. I've got my 1/2 inch seam allowance, which means on my machine, I'm lining it up against this guy. Oh, you can't see that. This line right here, and I scooted my needle over to the right a little bit. And you can see the line where you mounted previously, and so that's what we kind of want to make sure we get inside that. This is very exciting. Back tack. Okay. I'm just gonna kind of hold this corner. I'm gonna go real slow and try to keep it flat. The clips definitely helped. I don't know why I didn't remember that, because that's like basic sewing 101. I guess I just got so excited about finishing my pouch that I just forgot. Okay. All right. As you're going, it's gonna get really bulky, and this is why I said you need a size 80 or 90 needle, because there's a lot of fabric in here. There's like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 layers that we're sewing through right now. So also, before you start sewing any major seams or anything really important or difficult, check your bobbin and make sure you have enough thread on your bobbin, because there is nothing worse than getting around a difficult corner and being so proud and realizing that you ran out of bobbin thread. That's the worst. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna have a little extra fabric, so I'm just gonna kind of make a little pleat here. Maybe it'll be okay. It's gonna be a little pleat, but that's okay. It's gonna be fine. Okay. Oh, it's going good so far. Tell you what, you make something 4 times and eventually you're gonna get it right. Right. So we've got one side sewn on, and if I were to flip this right side out, you can see what it's gonna look like. This is coming together, guys. Oh yeah, that turned out a lot better than the last time I made it. There. Oh, so great. All right, so this is the fun part where we get to attach the things. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're going to kind of see how long these need to be. Actually, these turn out to be like the perfect length. Wow, good job, me. I'm gonna clip off my zipper right here. Before I do that though, this is so important. If you catch nothing else I'm telling you right now, catch this piece. Before you do anything, you need to unzip your zipper. Okay, that does 2 things. First of all, it makes sure that you are not chopping off your zipper tab, which I've done one too many times, let's be honest. The next thing it's gonna do is gonna help you turn your piece right side out whenever we finish sewing it together, okay? So whenever you unzip your zipper, I'm gonna rezip it just a skosh. That's gonna make these 2 little legs act independently of one another. So I'm gonna go ahead and, you'll never guess what I'm about to say. I'm gonna pin it so that I know where they work together. Okay, and then unzip it. Okay, the goal is to get this tail inside of this, okay? And we want it to look like that. I'm sure there's a better way to do this. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to unpick just a few stitches here. Rip that out. Just a few. We don't need a whole bunch. If it'll let me. There we go. Take out just a few of these guys. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up folding these 2 down like this. And that's going to create this little mouth opening that I can stick that inside of. Okay? But the trick is we want that to happen at that mark. And apparently that's just not going to happen today. And we're just going to have to be okay with that. If I had planned better, what would I have done differently? I don't know what I would have done differently. I guess I would have scooted this way. But sorry guys, that's my bad. But it's still going to work, so we're just going to roll with it. I'm going to take these guys, fold them down, and then I'm probably going to iron that. And then I'm going to stick this little thing inside that mouth. And then I'm going to sew it. Okay, I'm going to go iron. All right, I've got this ironed. I'm going to stick the zipper inside this little mouth here. And then I'm going to pin the crap out of it. I mean, it bothers me that it's off center. It really bothers me actually. So if I redid this, which I'm not going to at this point, but if I did, I would have made this pattern piece 5 longer. So if you're watching this whole thing before you sew it, I would maybe add like 3 inches to pattern piece 5 at the end. That's what I would do. So I'll know next time, or maybe I'll even change the pattern to reflect that. We'll see. Tuck that guy in there. And when we're sewing over this, we're going to go really, really slow. We're going to use a pretty tiny stitch length over the zipper teeth so that they don't get out of line. And I am really just pinning the crap out of this. I'm just going for it. The good news is attaching the second face is not as difficult because we have a little bit of structure and base to deal with. Stick that in the mouth. No, don't come out. Don't come out. Don't come out. Don't come out. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take this to the machine, and I'm just going to be really careful when I sew it. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so what we don't want to do is we don't want to catch this face, this base layer. We want to sew just the loop. We want to make just the loop and turn it into a loop. Make the loop a loop. Okay, I don't think this is going to be beautiful, but let's see what it did. Okay, this isn't too bad. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like on the inside, and that's the part you're not going to see. This is what it's going to look like on the outside, which is the part that you are going to see, and I actually think that looks okay. It's off kilter just a little bit, but I think when you zip it, you're not going to be able to notice. Let's see. Yeah, it's off kilter just a little bit, but it's not too bad. You can't really tell. I am, however, going to flip this over, and I'm going to go back and restitch on this side, just right over the same stitches I was using, just to make sure I'm catching all those little folds and creases and stuff. Alright, so you can see how that doesn't exactly line up. Like, it's not exactly a perfectly straight line, but I think it's going to be accounted for in the seam allowance. So I think it'll be okay. So what we're going to do now is see how it's already kind of trying to lay flat against the against that piece. We're just going to go ahead and make sure it does that. Let's clean this up a little bit first because there are threads all over the place. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and pin this down. Just a couple pins is all you need. There. Yeah. Alright, and so then I'm just going to connect. So I stopped sewing here, I started sewing here. So I'm just going to sew from here to here and connect. So all unevenness aside, I know that really bothers me. It probably doesn't bother you as much. This is kind of, we only really have a few more pieces left. Let's clean this up. How did that get so messy? It's like a bird's nest in there. Also, this green fabric really doesn't like to stay put. All right. So if I were to take this now, first of all, I'm going to make sure that it's unzipped. That is so important to make sure it's unzipped. Okay. If I were to turn it right side out, you can definitely see how this is taking shape now. So all we have to do is put on the other face and then make the edges look pretty. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Okay, so turn it this way. We're gonna make some clips. Where this halfway point was on this underside that we made a notch, we also want to make a notch on the other side of the bottom. So we have a notch here, but we want to put a notch at the halfway point here, and that's what we're gonna line up. Is we're gonna line up these halfway points. And then we're gonna do that on the top too. Maybe I'll zip the zipper temporarily to make the clip. So here's the halfway point. We're gonna make the halfway point notch here. All right. Unzip. And then I did this wrong the first time I did it. So make sure that you have your interior facing down. Find your halfway point and connect it to the halfway point of the loop. And then pin. In my opinion, attaching this side of the loop is a lot easier. Okay. So I just preached to you guys about making sure your bobbin thread was in there good, and then I ran out of bobbin thread. So it's like comedy of errors over here. So basically what I'm doing right now is I'm sewing this bottom, this last face on, and I'm sewing at the 1/2 inch seam. And yeah, I already took some pins out because I was sewing it and I thought I was done. I guess I was not. All right. Okay, so this is what we got. Obviously, we're going to do some cleaning up of this. I took all the pins out. I'm going to go ahead and, remember we kept our zipper open, right? I'm going to go and put my hand in and flip this right side out and just kind of check it out. Make sure all the pieces work. Ah, this is so great. Yeah, check it out. We got ourselves a little pouch. Yeah, so I can definitely tell, like here where that the pleats happened, and then how this side is like way higher than that side. But again, just lengthen that pattern piece 5 by about 2, 3, or 4 inches or so, and you'll be good to go. Yeah, wow, I'm really excited about this. Cool. So what I'm gonna do now is finish the insides. Look at how great this is. Oh, I can't get over it. I'm so excited. Wonderful. Can you see how the inside of this is like ravelly and kind of gross? You have a couple of options. You could either use pinking shears, which are the zigzaggy edge scissors, and you could trim all the way around those with pinking shears. I don't really like to do that. I like to actually finish my edges. It takes some time and patience to do it though. So what you could also use Fray Check, which is like a liquid that you put around the edges. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some regular ribbon. What did I do with that? It's over here. This is just regular gross grain or grosgrain ribbon, and I'm gonna fold it in half and iron that. And I'm gonna use this as bias binding. So you can also buy double fold binding at like your sewing shop, like Joann's, Hobby Lobby, or something. But I'm gonna go ahead and fold this binding in half and iron it down. And while I'm here with you, I'm just gonna go ahead and trim this just a little bit because my ribbon isn't gonna reach all the way. And plus it's just nice to have a nice clean edge to start with when you're binding. So my actual line of stitching that I'm concerned about is this one right here, this one that's furthest in. Everything outside of that can be chopped off, it doesn't matter. So I'm just gonna trim, I don't know, like a 1/4 of an inch from that line. Okay, on the binding, I'm gonna do things a little bit differently. Instead of pinning, I'm gonna use these little binder clips, just from the regular office supply store. And I don't pin all the way. I just kind of pin right in front. I say pin, it's clipping, right in front of where I need to be. So I'm gonna start on the bottom of the bag and just start with my ribbon or your binding. And you don't have to fold it under. You can leave that edge right there raw, it's fine. But what I am being careful about is making sure that when I'm sewing, I'm catching the top and the bottom edges of the binding. That's the really important part, because otherwise we're gonna have to go back and do it again. All right, we did it. It's done. Dun, dun, dun. All right, I'm gonna clean this up and I'm gonna flip it right side out, and I'll see you in a second. We're done. Look at how great this turned out. All the little errors and stuff, you can't really tell. I mean, there's little things here and there, but oh my gosh, I didn't realize how roomy this thing was. So this is the medium. Has 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, including the large pocket. This is the small. And these are the actual measurements provided by Delphonics. I'm going to stuff this. I'm so excited. Look how great that looks. I'm going to stuff it and then maybe make another video of what's inside my pouch. Oh, look at my happy little Delphonics family. And I didn't spend a penny on this. I already had everything. That is so great. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and thanks to everyone who asked for this tutorial. This was really fun to make. I started at 7:15 this morning. It's 11:45 now. I already had the fabric cut, so that's 4.5 of just stitching time, 4.5 hours of stitching time. Maybe add another half hour to that for cutting the fabric. But it's so great because you can work in stages. Like if you wanted to one day cut the fabric, and then the next day do the interior pockets, the next day do the exterior pockets, and there's like lots of little stages you can do. I think the only thing you probably couldn't break up is doing the binding on the inside. That's really probably the worst part. I'm so excited, and I really think these turned out really, really nicely. Much better than I kind of anticipated. So thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to download the pattern. Again, please don't share that. That would be some serious copyright issues. Like don't sell it. If you want to share it, like make sure you share the link directly to my site, and that would be great because I spent my time to make it. And yeah, enjoy it. Share with me what you made. Show me what you made with this. Thanks. Bye.